Thank you, everybody, once again for joining us today. Today we have a guest from South Africa. It's a guest you're probably familiar with, more so from a product that they've built. I believe this is the first USSD Bitcoin service in Africa that's actually working, that's actually functional, and we are really excited and honored to have the lead developer, the founder of Machankura with us. Hi Kgothatso.
Hello David, thank you very much for having me, man.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for agreeing to do this on actually such a short notice. I have to say as well, congratulations on Machankura. I think he did a post about a few weeks, and it has really gotten a lot of attention and publicity. So we thought it would be nice to just have you on an interview to just talk about the product. So maybe we can start, Kgothatso, with introductions about you, who you are, where you are from, and how you got into the crypto space.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I am a software developer, and basically I grew up in Pretoria and studied computer science at the University of Pretoria, and that's where my software development career kind of began. And yeah, through that, being a researcher and all these different things, I was introduced to Bitcoin. And yeah, I had the opportunity to focus on Bitcoin at one of my jobs for a bit. And yeah, I liked what I saw about the project. And so I was like, oh, there's really something here. So I thought it would be nice for me to explore more and more about the topic, right? And yeah, been working on it pretty much since been working on Bitcoin related projects since like 2019, right? So we have the project called Exonomia, where we are translating Bitcoin literature into African languages. And yeah, I've been focused on that since last year as well, 2021 actually. And yeah, with Machankura, it's a few months old, so we're still exploring how that is going.
Right, awesome. Now, let's talk about Machankura. Obviously, I'm sure it's given you a lot of publicity now. So, I mean, how did it come about? How did you come up with the idea of a USSD service for Africa?
Yeah, so I think it's an extension. Machankura as a service is an extension of what I'm trying to do with Exonomia, So I want Bitcoin to be accessible as possible to as many Africans as possible, right? Even with the Exonomia project translating Bitcoin literature into African languages, the aim is to allow a person who's motivated enough to want to learn about Bitcoin to not have to deal with the language barrier that comes with most of the literature being in English in the space, most of the podcasts being in English in the space. Machankura is an extension of that and trying to make Bitcoin more accessible to anyone who would like to use it and not letting the internet be a barrier to the person using it, right? So yeah, as a software developer, even in South Africa, I've had a few issues introducing people to apps that I'm personally building, where a person would also say, yo, I don't have space on my phone, so on and so forth. I can't install your app, yada, yada, yada. Or if I even direct them to an app to use, they might not be able to use it. So because they don't have space or they don't have internet, right? So yeah, that's basically the inspiration. USSD works on pretty much any phone. A person doesn't have to install it. All they have to do is access it.
All right, awesome. For people who don't know, what does Machankura mean?
Yeah, so Machankura is a slang word for money.
Okay.
It's a slang African word for money.
Okay, which language is that?
Oh, township slang. In the township, there's many different ethnicities and many different cultures just coming together and using words, or creating words actually. So Machankura is just one of those words that everyone not everyone, most people kind of know what it means, but not one tribe can say, oh, we are the ones that actually use this word.
Now, for someone possibly who's not aware about, like you've mentioned, the challenges in Africa, right? Maybe downloading an app and all that is actually a challenge on the continent. Would you mind also breaking down to us, now that you decided, let me build a product on USSD, what are the challenges of building a USSD crypto product in Africa?
A few of the challenges are technical, maybe. But let me say this, with the deployment of this service, I've had a very easy time. I didn't struggle too much, just because I had a good service provider, right? So, and yeah, which supports the countries that I would like to deploy in very well, right? So then the issue becomes deploying such a service in the rest of the other African countries that might not get as much technical attention as you would expect in other countries like South Africa and Nigeria, which have a big or booming tech market, right? So that is the biggest challenge, finding service providers that you could actually work with. I think one of the biggest companies in the space that has to do with telecoms tech is Twilio, right? But Twilio doesn't support, feature-wise, doesn't support most African countries in such a rich manner as you would find it supporting most American or Western countries, right? So yeah, finding a good service provider, having conversations with them just to say, oh, this is what I'm trying to do, and them willing to do it. But not only that, even in other countries where the service providers are a little afraid of touching any Bitcoin related project, so just explaining to them that technically this is the same as an app or a website like Wallet of Satoshi or Blue Wallet app, right? The only difference is this is accessible via USSD. So yeah, working with service providers, if you have a good one, it's easy. If you don't, it's hard, and depending on the country you're targeting as well, it's a mix of different things.
So I've noticed in Kenya you're working with Africa's token, right?
Yeah, I'm working with them in all the countries I'm deployed in except Namibia.
All right, awesome. I hope that experience is easy.
No, it's very, very easy. I like working with them quite a lot.
All right, awesome. Now, speaking of challenges, of course, like you mentioned, some companies will not touch crypto for obvious reasons. We know that, crypto is still a taboo product for a lot of African countries. Have you faced any challenges when it comes to, legal implications or regulations on this line?
Yeah. Well, let me clear up by saying, well, first and foremost, I'm focusing only on Bitcoin, okay? And I believe it's much easier to work with Bitcoin in most countries and with most companies because it has such a very stable brand internationally, right? Even in countries like Kenya, where your central bank has basically said, do not bank any Bitcoin companies, so on and so forth. The fact that this is a Bitcoin only project makes what I'm doing way easier and much more palatable. And with regards to then these companies not wanting to work with Bitcoin related things, I've realized that it's just an education problem, right? And the other thing is that most companies in the space are not even Bitcoin companies. They are really trying to do so much, and ultimately the default response is to say no, because these guys are really trying to do too much, and if something doesn't work out, the people or the users are the ones that pay for the technical debt, right? So my project is pretty much very simple. It's a Bitcoin wallet. And most of the time, as long as I'm able to educate the service providers and the companies, I usually manage to work with them very well.
Right, awesome. Thank you, Kgothatso. Now, you are in 6 African countries so far. You've said you want to expand to more countries. How many countries do you expect to be in maybe by the end of 2022, maybe in 5 years' time?
Yeah, hopefully all African countries, right? By in 5 years' time, hopefully. Right? But there's quite a few technical challenges in other countries that, as I said earlier, do not get as much love and attention from service providers. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out that solve that technically. Like, how do I deploy into a country that doesn't have all this attention and all this love from service providers? But ultimately, I would like to deploy the service all through the continent.
Now, I think I recently saw, there's quite a lot of interest with Machankura. I love how users are, using their username on Twitter, where, you see like, if it's me, David at 8333.mobi. It's a great marketing tool and awareness. I don't know, how did you come up with that?
Hey man, the people came up with it for themselves, right? So yeah, but I think maybe I think the first person I saw was Mumo from Kenya. Right? Mumo at 8333.mobi. He's a YouTuber, and he had it, and I was like, oh, that's dope, right? And yeah, I think that also was I don't know the actual word to use, but a good indicator that this is actually a feature that a person wants or appreciates, right? If they're willing to put it on their own account like that. So yeah, the users just did it for themselves, and yeah, but I think it also has to do with the space, with the Bitcoin space. I'm not the first company to allow for Lightning addresses. I think my service being more Africa centric kind of allow the person or the users to be prouder to put that on their Twitter display names, right? Yeah, even what's this? A while ago, a similar thing happened in the Bitcoin space where people were putting their Mastodon URL. So, and Mastodon is like a Twitter alternative. Yeah, so I think that is something to do with how people in the Bitcoin space usually react to a technology or a product that caters for their needs very well.
No doubt, I have to say that. Yeah. Now, do you mind telling us, as of now, how many users does Machankura have? If you can be specific also, which countries is Machankura seeing most adoption?
Okay. So basically, we are running around 500 right now, 500 users. Most activity is in South Africa, in terms of user numbers. Nigeria is in the lead, right? As well. But usage-wise, Uganda is number one. Right? So from a transactional perspective, all the users in Uganda are number one. I don't know why, but I'd like to believe it's because the Ugandan shilling is closer to set parity, so Satoshi parity. So one Uganda shilling is almost equivalent to one Satoshi. So when I initially started the project, I didn't have local currency indicators, right? So I think it was easier for them to pick up, one Satoshi is actually worth this much. So they would use it more. So people in other countries still have that mental barrier, but yeah, for now it's solved with the local currency conversion, right? But by far Uganda is the most active, whether from receiving or sending transactions.
For those who don't know, on Machankura you can actually spend your Bitcoin or Satoshis. Do you mind telling us where where can one spend their Satoshis? Which countries, maybe specific locations?
Okay, so technically, as a person, you can spend Bitcoin anywhere, right? As long as the other party is willing to receive the Bitcoin. So what you would do is just say, go to the shop and say, "Oh, you willing to accept Bitcoin, and I'll send you Bitcoin for this goods," right? Yeah, but obviously not too many places accept Bitcoin. So each country has its own unique locations, and you'd have to convince the person you are working with or you're dealing with to say, "Oh, okay, I'd like to pay in Bitcoin," so on and so forth. But from Machankura's perspective, I have an integration with Bitrefill that allows you to buy airtime, right? So any user, all the users in any country can buy airtime using the service, right? So I'm planning to add more stuff for that. In SA, you would be able to buy petrol or vouchers to do grocery shopping, all these different and cool things. In Nigeria, you'll be able to buy electricity as well. So yeah, I'm working on that, and yeah, so I'll just see how it pans out, and yeah, but so far it's been a very fun process.
All right, awesome. And now, maybe just a quick rundown for those who don't know, who may not be familiar, just how easy it is to have a Machankura account. Like, just tell us, how does one set up an account, like real fast?
Okay. Yeah. Since you are in Kenya, I'm gonna assume that most of your viewers or listeners are in Kenya as well, right? So for Kenya, it's as easy as a person dialing *483 *833 hash. Né? I'll repeat *483 *833 hash. And due to the nature of Muslims, USSD, a person is then presented with a menu where that has options for them to select. Option 1, 2, 3, 4, and each option kind of has a small description for what they should expect once they press that option, right? And from there, first option is usually register account if you don't have an account. Second option is learn more, so on and so forth. And yeah, it's that easy basically.
I know that you've built Machankura on, it's leveraging the Bitcoin Lightning Network. Do you mind telling us the choice for the Bitcoin Lightning Network, and possibly also any drawbacks to using the Lightning Network? And also, just to mention, like, how fast is the service? If I'm sending you some Satoshis or Bitcoin, how fast as well is it?
Okay, so let me start with the last question. Lightning is usually lightning fast, right? But on my service, it might take a few seconds for a payment to go through, like 5 to 10 seconds. For other users, depending on the wallet you're using, it's less than a second. Like you just say pay, and then the payment just goes through. And yeah, then the drawbacks with Lightning is basically, it's a network, right? So people have to be connected to each other, right? So if you have node or wallet that is not connected to me through whatever, some if there's no path that you can follow from your node to my node to send a payment, the payment won't go through, right? But yeah, that's usually not too bad. Most people manage to make successful payments majority of the time. And yeah, if a successful payment doesn't go through, it's easy to fix because we can just look at, oh, this is what needs our attention, this is what we will need to fix, and so on and so forth, right? And yeah, what else was there? What else was your question?
Yeah, yeah, it was a question of the choice for the Lightning Network.
Oh yeah. So the reason though I decided to use the Lightning Network is because on-chain has other limitations, like block confirmation times, which is around 10 minutes, and on-chain fees can get very high, when there's a lot of traffic on the blockchain, right? So Lightning solves for both of those. Allows you to send instant transactions at very low fees. And yeah, that's basically the main reason I'm using Lightning. And the other reason is Lightning addresses, right? Lightning addresses are human readable and human writable because they are like emails, and that's why people put their Machankura Lightning address on their Twitter profiles, right? The reason for that is because also the other side of it. Let me just take out my phone real quick. Sorry. Um, a lot of people use this device, right? Okay, actually not a lot of people, but these are the people I'm targeting with the service. With this keypad, I doubt you're gonna be able to input a Bitcoin address, right? As a normal person. Obviously, some of us nerds can do it, right? But as a normal person, you're probably gonna make a mistake. It's a 63 character string. 63 to 64 character string, and a lightning invoice is probably worse, right? Bolt 11 lightning invoice, that is, can even be longer than 160 characters, which is the limit of an SMS, by the way. So what I wanted was something that could be easily inputted on this device. And what I found is that Lightning addresses serve that purpose, right? So for me, that means that Lightning is the way to go. And I'm also exploring on-chain support, but also through the guise of this, right? So a lot of users want to send from Machangura to on-chain wallets, but sorry guys, you are not really the target market for now. So as soon as I figure out a way for a person who's using this device to send to an on-chain address very easily, that is when the service is going to have on-chain support for those people who would like to, get off Lightning and on-chain. There's technically already a way, which is Paynims, but I just want a way to incorporate that into the service as well. Yeah. So yeah.
Right. Awesome. Thank you for that illustration as well. Now, for a user of Machankura, are there costs to be incurred? So if I want to send you Satoshis, what are the charges?
Oh yeah, so I charge a 1% transaction fee, right? Which is rounded down, right? So if you are sending one Satoshi to somebody, that goes down for free, basically. But once you're sending substantial amounts, that a transaction fee kind of kicks in, right?
Yeah. So my next question was, how does Machankura earn revenue? Then I imagine it's from the 1% charge. You mentioned quite a lot of things that you want to continue build on top of Machankura, on-chain transactions and all that. Do you have any partners that you're currently working with to help with integrations, or even in terms of expanding the product across the continent?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's quite a lot of people involved, right? Quite a lot of collaborators as well. And I think the simplest way to answer that is that Bitcoin is an open network, right? I'm interoperable with pretty much any other service that supports Lightning addresses or Lightning, some form of the LNURL spec, right? And so I've gotten so much support, as you were saying, right? The community members who are using the service are putting their Lightning addresses on the Twitter displays, names, and all of that, right? And for me, I never had to say, oh, please do this, so on and so forth. The support is just there because it's an open community, it's an open network, and people are freely and happily doing their part to push Bitcoin adoption, right? I think even others are going as far as saying, yo, I'm a software developer and I would like to be involved in some of the work that you're doing moving forward, right? Yeah, but yeah, we'll just see how well that pans out over time, right? But due to the nature of the network, it's quite easy for a person to be involved, right? If they don't even have to talk to me most of the time. We just talk just because conversations are always good, right? So yeah.
I mean, any future plans, any near future plans for 2022 that you can expect from Machankura?
So yeah, now I have work in progress to deploy to 3 more countries. Technically, those countries are live, but I'm just testing, making sure everything is pick and span. That is probably the primary focus for me. And yeah, as I said earlier, I'm also working on figuring out how to deploy to the countries that do not have as much technical attention from the service provider side.
So Kgothatso, baby, as we wind up, what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs in the blockchain crypto space, in the fintech space, that are building solutions that are quite relevant like yours? What advice would you give in terms of building, in terms of helping come up with solutions that actually solve Africa's problems?
Let me see. I really don't know, man. Well, other than do what you think is right, there's really a lot of things to play around with. There's really a lot of things to do. Only you can solve your own problems because you're the person that deals with them on a daily. If the problems are not burning you enough for you to solve them, then that means they are not that big of an issue. Right? There is a lot that is wrong in the world right now. If you're not angry at what's wrong with the world, it's okay, right? But it's good if you're angry, because you should be able to use that rage to fix it, to fix what's wrong in the world. I don't think it takes too many people to fix some of the issues that we are dealing with in the world today. So if you can take our time and just sit down and say, oh, I do not like this problem. This is a problem that I'm dedicating my life to fixing. There's a song by Lupe Fiasco called Janela Forever. Right? It's basically a song about baby that was shot by a stray bullet, right? And died. But in Lupe's song, the baby survived and grew up to be a very smart girl who went to university and studied medical science or studied towards being a medical doctor, graduated flying colors. All the medical institutions were trying to get her to join them, yada, yada, yada. And she was like, no, I'm going to go back to where I come from, and build a 24-hour clinic or a free clinic or something like that. As she she was at the clinic in her neighborhood as a fully grown woman. A child who was shot, a baby was shot right in front of a clinic, and she rushed out and saved the baby's life, right? And it turns out that the baby that she saved was actually herself, right? So that song is, for me, part of the reason I believe that you should be solving your own problems, right? The things that happen to you that you don't want to happen to anyone else are the things that you should be solving for, and you are more than capable of figuring out how to do it. You have not all the time in the world. There's only 60 minutes in a second, right? So 60 seconds in a minute. So use your time wisely and just figure it out.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. What a nice way to end our discussion, Kgothatso. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. We definitely look forward to see where Machankura will be by the end of 2022. And like we said, in 5 years' time, hopefully Machankura will be across the 54 countries on the continent. Thank you so much,
Cool.
Kgothatso.
Thank you very much, David.